But we're also going to see a lot of folks as far as their financials when they've looked at, CD, especially the short term that's been so good lately, the 6-month, 7-month CDs that have been definitely outperforming the 2 and 5 year. These rate cuts could drop CD rates, which just means, more than ever, they can reach out to us here or their financial professional to wonder how are other ways to hedge inflation. And we're going to see just a little bit of consumer cracks here in the inflationary pressure that we're seeing because U.S. economy, it grew a little slower pace than expected here for first quarter.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are watching and listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. Well, let's find out what's going on with the economy, what it means for your wealth, for your retirement, if that's in the cards for you. And our good friend Mindy McIntosh is back with us. Mindy, hey, we got some numbers out. So tell us about the numbers and what they mean and what you need to do about them.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Kerry. We definitely do have some numbers back. The GDP did grow at a 1.6% annual pace this first quarter. Now, I can tell you that did fall short a little bit of the estimates, but I really think that this actually, in my opinion, is a good thing because if we see this with some rate cuts, it could drop some things that we're going to see. So, mortgage interest rates might start to fall and get more back on level playing field, we call it. But we're also going to see a lot of folks as far as their financials when they've looked at, CD, especially the short term that's been so good lately, the 6-month, 7-month CDs that have been definitely outperforming the 2 and 5 year. These rate cuts could drop CD rates, which just means, more than ever, they can reach out to us here or their financial professional to wonder how are other ways to hedge inflation. And we're going to see just a little bit of consumer cracks here in the inflationary pressure that we're seeing because U.S. economy, it grew a little slower pace than expected here for first quarter.
So this is a case of bad news being good news.
I think we're going to see pricing might be a little bit of a problem, economy slow a little bit, but the pullbacks, with what investors see, really we can rely on staying somewhat of a course moving forward. So sometimes when we take a look at, robust growth prospects remaining to a likely scenario of a growing performance, a lot of times too, what I've seen lately is some of the unpredictability, but I looked up some of the recent numbers and like business equipment spending, it actually still rose by a couple percent. Residential fixed income investments grew over 13%. Intellectual property, especially actually Kerry in the realms of software, went up over 5%. So I think that we still need to be looking towards, we talk about retirement made clear here all the time, but if we're looking at a positive focus and staying well diversified, I still think I can give consumers a, retirement confidence, especially when we see such a good first quarter that we've had out of the S&P.
Yeah. What about the inflation numbers, though? Your purchasing power of your savings, your dollar continues to be eroded, right?
It sure does. Yep. So we're seeing that when we take a look at this, even compared to fourth quarter, the declaration of the real GDP and the primary first quarters, it just means that it's respected of the declarations of what we're actually seeing, putting pressures on consumers, the spending, right? So we talk about consumer spending, state and local government spending. So our dollar just for sure has not been extending as far as what it has been. So we really need to see these movements. And sometimes they can be offset a little bit by an acceleration, even as like residential fixed investments. But we really need to be careful of what we're seeing happening with the dollar and what we're just really seeing with timeline. And I just don't see that inflationary number changing anytime quite soon. So we just need to really, take a look, have a plan. I can't stress more than ever is just to make sure consumers that are listening to Kerry watching is to make sure they have a plan, they're well diversified, and they're actually realizing and notating what is actually happening here and how sustainable and what long-term this looks like quarter over quarter.
All right. So, the IMF has sent a message to Congress, to the government, that the current path that the country's on is unsustainable. When are we going to wake up and pull back from the brink here?
That's the true question. I feel like with this coming in at 1.6, that actually, to me, is more good news. We should see that come down some. I would like to see those mortgage interest rates reduce some. CD rates, as much as the folks are all liking them, we need to see some things come back to a level playing field. And I think the slower than projected, economy growth came alongside with this surprisingly high inflationary reading. And really, if we take a look at the core, our personal consumer expenditures, we got to, it excludes the volatile food and energy categories, which those are still growing by over 3%. So I think we just really need to see where things are going to go. We'll see some bond yields. They rose. So a big thing that we're seeing is with that 10-year treasury at a nearly 7 basis points, reaching about 4.7 for the first time since early November of 2023. I think we just need to take a look. Fed banks are going to hold rates a while and wait for inflation to fall a little further. So continue to look ahead. Don't make knee-jerk reactions. Talk to your, investor and your advisors, and make sure that we're understanding what sectors to be in and where to look further.
Okay, so what's your take on AI? Is it just the flavor of the week, or is it the next huge advancement that's going to affect the U.S. economy and the global economy, much like the internet did in the early 2000s?
I think AI is here to stay, and I think we need to be careful in what realms that we're actually utilizing AI. But, we've seen it. We've seen all the way from, robot development of what we're even seeing in some restaurants and serving things to how people are communicating. We're in such a digital world, even when we're taking a look at, some staples that we've actually seen of like Amazon cloud-based, the Roblox of the world and such. But I really think we're going to see AI continue to be instrumental where we actually are as a country globally. And so I do think that this is a space to look out for and to have your hands in somewhat.
Yeah. So is NVIDIA going to go up any higher, or is it kind of through with its run?
I don't think we're going to see as high of a run of what we did, but I really think if consumers take a look, that's definitely where the buzz is at. I don't think anything of what we've seen come out first quarter is going to affect that much, but I don't think we're going to see another huge rise either. And I think as long as we're looking at, don't be too heavily in the knee-jerk reactions of, oh, my friends have it, or this is the new hot item. Stay well diversified, stay the course, and I think we'll see more things that come next quarter.
All right. So what about the prospects of AI? I watched that, can't remember the name of it, but basically the guy said to the robot, hey, I'm hungry. And the robot picked up an apple and threw it at him. And, it was remarkable. And, then he asked the robot how he thought he did, or she, I don't know. It was probably pronouns really tricky when it comes to robots, but basically he said, yeah, I think I did okay. You said you were hungry. I gave you the only food that was on the table. And, when you look at that and you say, man, it's just like everything's going to be done by the robots in 5 to 10 years. You could just see it.
Yeah. And personally, I don't want to see that happen. I want to make sure that, it's really hard to take the flavor of personal approach out of things. So yes, there's some things that, AI is great for. There's others that I think is a very fine line about what we're asking for, delivery, opinions, kind of just in my nature, even the health of folks, right? So we weren't put on this earth to be by ourselves. We're put on here to build communities around people. So I think that we have to be very careful of what we're trying to digitalize and systemize and make sure that we're finding that happy realm medium where we're actually utilizing it as a great service work and as a tool, but not the do-all and end-all means for everything.
Yeah, well, I think the genie is out of the bottle or the toothpaste is out of the tube. There's no stopping it now. And, like full self-driving, Teslas, it's basically a true autonomy. I think it's pretty close, a lot closer than any of you out there might think it is. It's going to have profound impacts here on society, on investing, all of these things. I think we're entering kind of a new paradigm here.
I do too. I think picks that we're going to see, even with market picks that we see, you're right, with how we're actually driving vehicles all the way down to driver's license, where people are picking up food, how they're getting it. What's going to happen to what we see different mom and pop stores, small shops, or even restaurants. Are people going to go in and dine in more? It's so robotic in nature. Where are we actually going to see things turn to? And you're right. I love your analogy. The genie's already out of the bottle, and now how do we curtain and kind of keep that at even flow to try to make sure that we are still people driven and consumer driven.
All right. Hey, Mindy, if we want to get in touch with you, we want to follow you on the web and connect with you through the various outlets there. How do we do that?
I'm sure they can go to wealthmichigan.com. On there, you're going to find any information, our podcast, our radio show, educational series. So that's going to be the best way to reach out to us here, wealthmichigan.com, to find all things new about McIntosh and Associates. And we really like to make sure that we're focusing on retirement made clear. So reach out, us 877-222-8849. And we'd love to make sure that we can continue to focus on you.
Okay. Hey, appreciate it. If you've got a question for Mindy, myself, shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com, and you'll find a link to Mindy's site in the show notes to this interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. While you're there, sign up for your free newsletter. Mindy, appreciate your stopping by.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. Appreciate being here.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.